Man, I thought this day would never come. What's good, baby? Welcome back to Get Down MMA, where we get down on all things MMA. Now, I'm sorry I haven't been uploading, boys. I slept in, I had a really good 2-month-long sleep, however long it was. We're gonna be discussing the greatest minds in the history of MMA. Number 10 is Bob Sapp. Now, some of you guys might not know Bob Sapp. He's a bit of an older fighter. This guy was a beast, man, and you know, you need to look no further than his fight with Alexander Emelianenko. If you haven't seen this fight, Bob taps out after like a minute of being beaten on the feet. In my expert opinion, this shows his wits, as, you know, he recognizes that his raw intellectual ability is worth more than some random fight against some pedophile. Like, he needs to preserve his intellect. Also, his acting ability, you know, and the Oscar goes to, drumroll, Bob Sapp! Woo! When I think of Bob Sapp, I think of the Mirko Krokop fight, and when he fell like he'd been shot. I know he broke his orbital in the fight, but it wasn't the only time he'd done something like this to pull out his acting pedigree. Yeah, no, but his acting chops really show just how, like, multifaceted his game is, and that's the reason he's number 10 on today's list. Number 9, however, is another name you guys might not be too familiar with, but it's personally a guy I love. That's Crazy Horse Charles Bennett. The guy's nickname is Felony, and I'll get to that in a second. If you're unaware of Crazy Horse's existence, I'm so glad I get the honor of introducing you guys to him. Me personally, when I think of Crazy Horse, I think of that Vanderlei Silva incident backstage at Pride. I'm not sure which Pride event. The story went for years that Crazy Horse allegedly knocked Vandy out backstage, and it wasn't actually confirmed until 2021 when Vanderlei said, yeah, no, it really happened. And I think about that a lot. Back on the topic of the nickname Felony, he's been arrested 14 times. So he's really making a difference in the community. Moving on to number 8, Ken Shamrock. Now, like a lot of the fighters in today's day and age and across history, Ken has popped for drugs. But again, if you're unaware of who Ken Shamrock is, then this wouldn't turn any heads, right? You know, it's just another fighter who popped for drugs. I don't really know why after 5 consecutive losses, he decided, yep, now's the time to take gear. Let's go, baby. Full throttle. And look, obviously, let's just face the obvious here. We'll face the facts and realize just because he got caught doesn't mean it wasn't the first time he'd ever done it. Like, you take one look at the guy's physique, he looks like he hasn't eaten a processed food ever. And me personally, I just think that this shows his sheer dedication to the sport, regardless of the setbacks he has. His attitude that regardless of how many losses he's obtained, needs to stop at nothing to get the win, and I respect Ken Shamrock so highly for that. Number 7 is the man, the myth, the legend, one of the greatest to ever do it. You put this guy in a ring with anyone, and that's CM Punk. Yeah, real talk, this one could honestly be a lot higher. It's pretty simple. Punk's overall decision to join the UFC with no previous combat experience, it actually just really shows his intellect, and it's honestly one of the smartest decisions I've ever heard in my entire life. Leaves the WWE in 2014, goes to Rufus Sport. Obviously, everyone wants to earn less money and still get their ass beat, so I guess kudos to you, CM Punk. I've heard he's doing well for himself in the WWE now. I used to love that shit when I was a kid. CM Punk was one of those guys I really looked up to. Number 6 is, in my opinion, the greatest martial artist of all time, Dada 5000. A lot of you guys probably wouldn't even know who that is. He's 2-0, but look, those 2 wins were, God, they were impressive. But regardless of that, I think Dada is only known for one thing throughout his MMA career. That one thing is his fight with Kimbo Slice. Fight's not even the right word to use. It was a 2-man skirmish, if you will. A 2-man skirmish. This fight was so damn good that it actually resulted in Dada's lung collapsing. I'm not kidding. Google it. It really did. He was pronounced dead twice after the fight. It's not a joke. No, and similar, but kind of different to the Shamrock entry, Dada's just one of those guys who's an absolute warrior. And number 5, these two run hand in hand. Kimbo Slice. Now, it takes 2 to tango, boys, and for that reason, Kimbo Slice is number 5 on today's list. Honestly, one of my favorite moments in all of martial arts is before the Dada fight, when, for no real reason, Kimbo just shouted, "You fool!"
Each and every one of you guys.
You fool! Shut up, man.
Man, listen.
You ain't got shit to say.
Listen.
He also debuted on the 10th season of Tough, which is like widely regarded as the best season of Tough. Gave Kimbo Roy Nelson for his first fight. Roy went on to win the show and honestly had a respectable UFC run. Number 4, boys, we're getting to the heavy hitters. Marvin, the Italian roid rager, Vittori. With Vittori, he's pretty good. Like, he's consistently high ranked. He's fought for a title. However, on the topic of aforementioned title fight, one of the most notorious images of all time was born. Of course, that image being Marvin Vittori wearing his shorts backwards. His fashion sense just shows he has one of the greatest minds in MMA. Like, who had done this before him? I'll wait. Nobody had done this before Marvin. He's a trendsetter. You know, the Izzy fight also proved to help Marvin in a number of further ways, like his post-fight interview where he basically refused to accept defeat. And to be honest, from my perspective, after watching UFC 263, I was scratching my chin a little, guys. I was like, maybe Marvin did win and didn't just get 50-45 in a boring fight. And number 3 is none other than El Cockeye himself, Tony the Boogeyman Ferguson. Now, fake losing streak aside, because boys, obviously that was completely AI generated. I don't want to hear anything else. He didn't lose to Paddy Pimblett. He didn't lose to fundamentally boring Benil Dariush. But honestly, man, Tony's a character. Like, the knee incident before the Habib fight, the ankle-picking shenanigans, or, you know, shut up before I ankle-pick you, man. The 911 call that made way for some of the coldest edits of the modern era. He's a professional fighter. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Alright, man, what's his name? Tony Ferguson. You know what I mean? Yeah. But my favorite ever Tony Ferguson moment is when he beat Kevin Lee for the interim title, and then about a year later beat Anthony Pettis in, honestly, no bullshit, one of the greatest fights of all time, in my opinion. I kind of draw the line with Tony shenanigans is where he repeated the exact same post-fight speech after both wins. Number 2 is Luke Rockhold. Now, I mean, Luke's a handsome devil if I do say so myself. Like, similar to Vittori, he was very quick to reject the idea of losing. When Luke came up short to Bisping in their rematch, this time for the title, Luke got his ass kicked. Like, it was a first round knockout. He's probably also one of the single worst smack talkers in the history of the game.
You're gonna feel my power. You're gonna feel me here and on the feet, you're gonna feel me on the ground, you're gonna feel me everywhere. I'm gonna feel you. I'm gonna feel it up.
Again, if you ask me, that's because he doesn't want to use his sheer intellect to damage his opponent's will to live. Or maybe he's just stupid. Last reason, he's got a glass chin. It's right up there with Overeem's. This has no correlation with the rest of the video. I just felt like saying that. Number 1, baby, let's get it! And number 1, the greatest mind in the history of MMA is, of course, Tito Ortiz. Hooray for Tito, everybody's favorite human being, especially Dana White's. Now, Tito's another guy that I can just talk about all day. To save you guys some time, I made a Star Wars style intro. Gentlemen, without further ado, please enjoy this. Star Wars. Yeah, Tito Ortiz. I will see you in the next one. Don't go down. Get down, baby. It's a pleasure being back.